Welcome to the Good Book Tales. In today's story, we journey far beyond the stars, into a realm where light and darkness wage an endless war. A war not fought with weapons of metal, but with hearts of fire. This is Angels Among the Stars, the celestial war. They say the universe hums with a secret melody, a song only angels can hear. But lately, that song has begun to fade. The light that once bound galaxies together flickers, as if the heavens themselves are holding their breath. Somewhere in the vast silence of space, something ancient has awakened. Our story begins on the edge of the Orion cluster, where a lone angel drifts through the nebula, her wings woven from starlight, her eyes reflecting the glow of dying suns. Her name is Seraphine. Once, she was a guardian of worlds, a keeper of harmony among the stars. But now, she carries a secret, one that could either save the cosmos or destroy it. Seraphine has been running from her own kind. The Celestial Council has branded her a traitor, accusing her of defying the law of light. Yet she knows the truth. The real enemy is not within the council, but beyond the veil in the darkness between galaxies. There, hidden in the cosmic dust, the shadows stir, ancient beings of chaos who once ruled before time began. As Seraphine glides past a shattered moon, she senses them watching. The stars themselves seem dimmer here. Her communicator crackles, a faint voice calling her name. It's Orion, the warrior angel who once fought beside her. He whispers, "They found me." Then silence. Fear spreads through her wings like fire. She turns toward the starfield where his signal came from, a place forbidden to all angels, the Abyssal Rift. Legends say it's where fallen angels vanish, where light itself is devoured. But Seraphine doesn't hesitate. She knows that if Orion has fallen, the balance of creation will fall with him. Meanwhile, deep within the celestial citadel, Archangel Kale watches the skies. He once called Seraphine his sister, though not by blood, by purpose. Now he's been tasked to hunt her down. But doubt gnaws at him. He remembers her laughter, her belief that angels were meant to protect, not to rule. Still, duty demands obedience. Across the universe, stars begin to flicker out, one by one, like candles in the wind. Mortals on distant worlds look up, sensing something they cannot name. Some pray, some dream. Few realize that their fate is being decided light years away. As Seraphine approaches the rift, a blinding pulse erupts, a wave of celestial energy that bends time itself. Her wings tear against the current. Through the chaos, she glimpses a figure rising from the abyss. Enormous, radiant, and terrible. Speaks not in words, but in pure vibration. Daughter of light, it says. The war has already begun. The screen fades to black. The music swells. The stars tremble. And the question hangs in the air. Who will survive the celestial war? The angels among the stars, or the darkness they once swore to destroy? The light faded, leaving Seraphine floating in silence. The echo of that voice still trembled through her wings, like the aftershock of a storm. She tried to steady her breath, but the space around her felt different now. Heavier, almost alive. The Abyssal Rift stretched out before her like an open wound in the cosmos. It was said to be the place where stars went to die, where fallen angels whispered their regrets to the void. But Seraphine wasn't afraid of the darkness. She was afraid of what she might find inside it. Her memories drifted back to the beginning, to the time before the war, when the heavens were still whole. Angels had lived among the stars in harmony, each constellation guided by its own guardian. The Celestial Council, led by Archangel Kale, had ruled with wisdom and light. Seraphine was one of their brightest, chosen to weave light into the fabric of new worlds. She loved her duty, loved watching life bloom under her wings. But then came the first tremor, a shift in the song of the universe. The stars began to sing off-key. Some said it was a natural cycle, others whispered of a disturbance in the source, the heart of creation. Then came the visions. Angels across the constellations saw flashes of shadow, shapes moving in the darkness, something vast and ancient stirring beyond the reach of time. When Seraphine spoke of it before the council, they called it blasphemy. They said no darkness could exist beyond the Creator's light. But Seraphine had seen it. She had felt it breathing. That was when everything changed. The celestial war didn't begin with armies, it began with doubt. A whisper here, a vanished star there. Angels turning against each other, unsure of what was truth and what was fear. And then the shadows came, not as monsters but as light twisted wrong. They could mimic the glow of angels, speak in familiar voices, and plant seeds of confusion in the purest hearts. Now, as Seraphine floated before the rift, she wondered if any of them had truly been free of it. Maybe even Kale. Maybe even her. The thought made her chest tighten. She reached into the folds of her robe and pulled out a small shard, a fragment of a broken halo. It pulsed faintly, humming with forgotten energy. It was all that remained of Orion's last signal. She whispered his name once more into the dark. No answer came, only the faint vibration of the stars shifting around her, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Somewhere deep within the rift, a soft golden light flickered, fragile, beautiful, and impossibly far away. Seraphine spread her wings and flew toward it, not knowing if it was salvation or the beginning of the end. The darkness moved with her, as if it had been waiting. As Seraphine flew deeper into the rift, the starlight behind her began to fade, swallowed by layers of shadow that shimmered like smoke. The air, if it could be called air, grew dense with energy, heavy with memories. Voices drifted through the darkness, soft at first, then clearer, like echoes of the past. She heard laughter, cries, prayers, fragments of souls lost to the celestial war. Each sound pulled at her heart, reminding her why she had left the council. This wasn't just a war between angels and shadows. It was a war for the truth about what light really meant. Far away in the celestial citadel, Archangel Kale stood at the edge of the observatory. The stars beyond the glass dome flickered like dying embers. He felt the silence pressing against him, the kind that comes before a storm. The council had begun to fracture. Some angels still believed in the ancient laws, in the purity of the Creator's plan. Others whispered that Kale himself was hiding something, that he knew the source of the growing darkness but refused to reveal it. He clenched his fist, knowing that even a single spark of doubt could shatter their fragile unity. Meanwhile, across a distant galaxy, a group of mortal astronomers had begun noticing strange anomalies. Stars blinking out in perfect sequences, as if following a pattern. One of them, a young scientist named Alara, couldn't shake the feeling that something, or someone, was watching her from beyond the telescope lens. Her discovery would soon connect her fate with Seraphine's, though neither knew it yet. Inside the rift, Seraphine reached the edge of the golden light, pulsed like a heartbeat, calling to her. But beneath that gentle glow, something darker stirred. A whisper older than creation itself, promising truth at a terrible cost. The war, it seemed, was only just beginning. The light ahead of Seraphine pulsed faster now, almost like it could feel her presence. Every beat sent ripples through the shadows, bending the space around her. Her wings trembled under the pressure, yet she pushed forward, each movement heavier than the last. The whisper grew louder, no longer a single voice, but many, blending together into a haunting chorus. They spoke her name, not with anger, but with longing, as though the darkness itself remembered who she once was. Behind her, the rift began to shift. Stars that had been long dead flickered back to life for a moment, forming strange constellations that looked almost like eyes. Seraphine could feel something pulling her closer to the heart of the void, a force older than the Celestial Council or even the Creator's first spark. And then, she saw it. A vast figure emerging from the light, wings folded like veils of molten gold. It wasn't Orion. It was something far greater and far more dangerous. At the same moment, in the celestial citadel, Kale felt the entire structure tremble. A wave of energy rippled through the heavens, shaking every star in the northern sky. He looked up, sensing Seraphine's presence through the bond they once shared. For a brief moment, he heard her heartbeat. Steady, defiant, alive. Then came another sound, deeper and colder. a voice that seemed to echo from beyond existence itself. The shadows were moving. Across galaxies, angels lifted their faces to the dark and saw the sky tear open. The light was changing, bending, becoming something unrecognizable. Kale drew his blade of starlight, knowing that the final choice, the one that would decide the fate of all creation, was about to be made. And Seraphine was standing at the very center of it. As the celestial storm raged around her, Seraphine felt the air split with a blinding surge of light. The figure before her began to shift, its golden wings unraveling into threads of energy that spiraled toward her. For an instant, she thought it was attacking, but then she saw the truth. Beneath the light was a familiar face, Orion. His form flickered like a dying star, torn between shadow and radiance. "You shouldn't have come," he said, his voice trembling, distorted by something deeper. "The light you're chasing isn't what it seems." Seraphine's breath caught. She reached for him, but her hand passed through his image like smoke. His eyes, once clear and full of fire, now glowed with the same strange darkness that surrounded them. "They've changed you," she whispered. "The shadows got to you." But Orion only shook his head. "No," he said, voice breaking. "It wasn't the shadows. It was the council. They opened the rift." The words struck her harder than any weapon. The Celestial Council, the keepers of divine order, had caused the very war they were fighting to prevent. Kale's face flashed in her mind, his steady gaze, his promises. She wanted to deny it, but deep down she knew. The signs had always been there. The secrecy, the silence, the way the stars dimmed each time the council gathered. Back in the Citadel, Kale stood before the empty throne of the Creator, surrounded by the whispering elders. Their faces flickered like fading holograms. "She's near the heart of the rift," one said. "If she learns the truth, the heavens will collapse." Kale's jaw tightened. He had followed the council's will his entire existence, believing their light to be pure. But now doubt flooded him like a crack through crystal. In the rift, Seraphine's wings began to burn with light. The energy of Orion's fading form flowed into her, unlocking visions she could barely comprehend. The birth of stars, the making of time, and a shadow buried deep within the Creator's own light. It wasn't darkness that threatened the cosmos. It was imbalance, too much light consuming everything it touched. She fell to her knees, overwhelmed by the revelation. The celestial war was not between angels and shadows. It was a war within the light itself. And the real enemy had been watching her from the beginning, waiting for her to see it. Seraphine rose slowly, the energy from the rift pulsing through her wings like liquid fire. Every beat echoed across the stars, sending waves of light rippling through the void. The truth now burned inside her. The Celestial Council had created the rift to contain the imbalance they themselves caused. Their thirst for perfect order had consumed the natural rhythm of the universe, and in trying to erase darkness, they had birthed it instead. Orion's form shimmered beside her, flickering between light and shadow. "You can still stop it," he said, his voice faint, fading. "The source is collapsing. If the balance isn't restored, everything, angels, stars, even the Creator's song, will fall silent." Seraphine looked toward the heart of the rift, where the source pulsed like a living sun. She could feel its pain, every note of creation straining, fracturing under the weight of false perfection. Suddenly, a blinding beam shot through the darkness. Kale appeared, his wings glowing with the pure light of the council. His sword hummed, forged from the first star ever born. "Step away, Seraphine," he commanded. "You've seen too much. The balance must be maintained." She met his gaze, and for a moment, neither spoke. They were two halves of the same truth, faith and doubt, love and duty. "The balance was never lost because of darkness," she said softly. "It was lost because we forgot to feel." Kale hesitated, the weight of centuries pressing on him. Then the rift shuddered, cracking open as beams of chaos tore through the stars. Seraphine reached for him. "Help me fix this," she pleaded. For an instant, Kale's expression softened. He dropped his blade and stepped forward, but before their hands met, the source exploded in light. The force hurled them apart, blinding everything. When the glow dimmed, the heavens were still. The rift was gone. The stars burned brighter than before, but Seraphine was nowhere to be found. Kale stood alone, his wings dimmed, his sword shattered. Then, faintly, across the universe, he heard her voice. Not from above, but within the starlight itself. "I am the balance," she whispered, "and I will watch from among the stars." He looked up, and for the first time saw new constellations forming, shaped like wings, spreading across the endless sky. The universe settled into silence, as if taking its first deep breath after an eternity of chaos. The stars that had once dimmed now glowed with renewed life, painting the skies of countless worlds in soft, golden light. Across galaxies, mortals looked up in wonder, unaware that the balance of all existence had been restored by a single angel who chose compassion over power. The celestial war had ended, but its echoes would live on in the hearts of every being touched by its light. Kale stood at the edge of the celestial citadel, the broken blade of his sword resting at his feet. He felt the presence of Seraphine everywhere, in the wind that swept across the starfields, in the gentle hum of the restored source, in the warmth that now pulsed through his chest. For the first time, he understood the truth she had tried to show him. Light and darkness were never enemies. They were two sides of the same heartbeat, each incomplete without the other. The celestial council had dissolved. The surviving angels scattered across the stars, no longer rulers but guardians, silent watchers who would guide creation with humility rather than control. Kale chose exile among them, carrying Seraphine's memory like a sacred promise. Each night, he looked toward the constellation shaped like wings and whispered her name, knowing she was still there, woven into the fabric of the cosmos. Far below, on a small blue planet, Alara stood beneath a clear night sky. Her telescope pointed toward a new formation no one had ever charted. Two shining wings stretched across the heavens. She didn't know why, but looking at them filled her with peace. She recorded her discovery and titled it The Angel Among the Stars. Somewhere in the vast expanse, Seraphine's voice lingered, soft, endless, filled with quiet joy. "Every light must learn to rest in shadow," she whispered, "and every shadow must remember its light." The celestial song began again, steady and pure, echoing through the galaxies. Balance had returned, not through war, but through understanding. And as the stars shimmered like a million living hearts, the universe carried on, alive, eternal, and perfectly imperfect once more.